For more on the precedent-setting cases that Omar Khadr's lawyer will be trying to mimic, Beatrice Vaisman joins us now in our Toronto newsroom. Beatrice, what can you tell us about the two Guantanamo military tribunal convictions that were previously overturned?
Well, Brian, as you and I both know, if defense lawyers like anything, it's good precedence cases. And that's exactly what Omar's lawyer, Edmonton-based Dennis Edney, is clinging to. Now, I just spoke with him, and he tells me he is absolutely sure that all of the convictions, all of Omar Khadr's convictions will be overturned. As we know, Omar is a convicted terrorist. He pleaded guilty to 5 different war crimes, including murder and spying. But Mr. Edney tells me those will all be overturned, and his plea deal will also not bear any importance during this appeal process. And the reason for that is 2 prior military commission verdicts that Washington's Court of Appeal has overturned. Let's bring those up for some comparison with Mr. Omar's case. Now, the first one is that of Salim Ahmed Hamdan. He is, of course, Osama bin Laden's personal chauffeur. Now, he served 7 years in Guantanamo Bay for providing material support for terrorism. And in fact, he was the first Gitmo prisoner convicted at a U.S. war crimes trial since the Second World War. Now, Washington's Court of Appeals threw it out last October, ruling that no such crime existed under international law of war at the time of the alleged offense. That was also echoed by Hamdan's lawyer, who after the ruling told reporters, you can't be deemed a criminal if it wasn't a crime. Now, the second case, even more recent, Brian, in fact, just 4 months ago in January, the same court tossed out the conviction of Ali Hamza al-Balul, which is, for all intensive purposes, he is bin Laden's media secretary. He was charged with providing media material support to terrorism and also of conspiracy for making propaganda videos for al-Qaeda and bin Laden himself. Now, he was originally sentenced to life in prison, but in January, Washington's Court of Appeals ruled that these charges that he was convicted of were actually also not recognized war crimes at the time he was accused of convicting them. But before Omar Khadr's lawyer rejoices too soon there, Brian, it is worthy to point out that this man's, the U.S. Court of Appeal does promise to review the decision of this last case right there. And also, Brian, if you look at, I have here in my hand right here, the assessment of this Gitmo detainee, and on the second page it says very clearly here that he is a high-risk detainee, and he has repeatedly stated that he is a terrorist, is an enemy of the U.S., and participated, has multiple ties to the 9/11 attacks, Brian.
There is a difference, though, in Khadr's case and the 2 cases he just outlined, and that's the fact that Khadr killed an American medic.
That's absolutely right, Brian, and it really comes down to the argument of whether Omar Khadr, at the time that these crimes were committed, whether he was a soldier or whether he was a child soldier or whether he was an insurgent. Now, I did put the question to his lawyer just moments ago. I asked him the difference with the 2 men I just mentioned right now, that these crimes were not considered part of international law at the times they were committed. And here's why Mr. Edney, how he justified Omar Khadr's murder of Christopher Spear. He says, murder is certainly a crime everywhere, but it is not a law of war offense. To do so is to blur the lines between legitimate shooting in the course of a battle. So obviously this will come into huge play, Brian, as this appeal process begins. Mr. Edney says, in fact, he will be filing it within the next month. So we should have many more details to share with our viewers very soon.
All right, Beatrice, thanks for this.
You're welcome.
That's Beatrice Vaisman in our Toronto newsroom.